Good evening, everybody. This is the June 18th, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting for the Glencoe Village Board. I will call the meeting to order now. Let's have a roll call.
Trustee Hallwax.
Here.
Trustee Neolopoulos.
Here.
Trustee Underdog. Here. Trustee Rosenblatt.
Here.
Trustee Rubin.
Here.
Trustee Scott is not. And President Rowan.
Here. We are not live streaming this meeting tonight, but the video recording will be available on the Village YouTube channel pursuant to the Village Board's adopted public comment rules. Because the Village Board's regular meeting is scheduled tonight, the same night as the Committee of the Whole, public comment and non-agenda items will occur only during the Village Board meeting at 7 o'clock. If you have comments on an agenda item that's included on tonight's Committee of the Whole agenda, I'll ask that those comments be provided when we reach that item on the agenda. At the appropriate time, all comments related to the agenda item will be limited to 3 minutes, and I'll notify the speaker when the time is up. Before we start, I have one comment for the benefit of people who are watching us chow down food. The Village Board is here for the duration because we have a second meeting, so I apologize. We're not ignoring you if we are smashing food in our face. Okay. First item on the agenda is review and discussion of the 2025 Public Safety Commission annual report. I will ask the commission chair, Amy St. Eve, to present Judge St. Eve.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I made it just in time. Came from downtown. It took me an hour and a half to get here from downtown, but I was just in the nick of time, so that worked out well. Thank you for having me tonight to give you the report of the Public Safety Commission for 2025. We have been busy this calendar year. The Public Safety Commission was created to establish examinations for entry-level public safety officers, for promotions, and to hear charges against members of the Department of Public Safety. I'm happy to report that we didn't have to hear any charges against any public safety officers this year, and that the Public Safety Office is very strong under the great leadership of our chief, who's sitting in the back, and Deputy Chief Curley. We met 6 times during 2025, and during this, one of the things that we did was we updated the rules to expand and change a little bit the examination process, specifically to allow for a continuous examination process for purpose of bringing on new officers, which gives us more flexibility in hiring. We also interviewed 31 candidates for public safety officers, a combination of new officers as well as lateral officers. A couple of years ago, we changed our policy to allow lateral officers who have served at least 2 years as a public safety officer somewhere to apply. So that process has gone well. Out of these 31 interviews, we hired 3 new public safety officers, and we have 1 opening as of today. So we're pretty full, which is great. The quality of the officers we hired has been terrific. We have not lowered our standards at all. Happy to report. We also, in the report you have, you'll see there are various consultants that we've hired, including the lawyers that we use, the polygraph examiner, and some of the medical providers to conduct the physical examinations of the new officers. So it's been a productive but a quiet year. So happy to report that.
That's great. And the Public Safety Commission, a lot of work, and particularly as we've gotten closer and closer to the employee staff. So we've really thank you.
We've got a great commission with Dan Rubenstein and Andrew Bergen working on it, so we work well together.
Okay, thanks.
Any questions?
Get to go home.
I get to go home. Thank you.
So the next report Plan Commission annual report. Now. Yes. And we should share. And staff ladies. That.
Taylor, do you want to begin by just giving an overview from your memo?
I went the wrong way. The board does have the memo. I'm happy to start invite the board. The Plan Commission, since the beginning of 2025 has met most months. It is focused really on two main duties. And the first is performing exterior appearance reviews. Those come in somewhat irregularly, but anytime that there's a project in one of our business districts that requires a building permit that changes the appearance at the outside of the building, that goes through an exterior appearance review process, most of which is handled by the Plan Commission. They've had 5 of them recently. Some signage, some facade renovations, including RTK Sushi, one in progress right now down at Rubens Plaza, some new fencing. The biggest one was really the public library expansion project, which started last fall with a joint meeting with the zoning commission and then carried through to this. It was a multi-month process. Came out of that appearance review with some, I think, some positive changes came from the Plan Commission. Things involving windows and scale and materials and so on, which were incorporated into which will be incorporated into that revised design when it comes back through for permitting. Comprehensive plan implementation, 2 big things that the commission has been focused on. First was the plan development ordinance. This is it comes directly from the recommendation of the comprehensive plan. We're going to talk about this in some more detail this evening, as this has now left the Plan Commission, who spent several months in the early stages of developing this ordinance. And now it's going to be going through the zoning code amendment process, which will start with the village board this evening, go through the zoning commission and back to the village board. But the Plan Commission has spearheaded that process and gave some really in-depth review and some early recommendations for that. Streetscape parking and study review recommendations. That's also been something the Plan Commission's been working on. Couple meetings last year and again this year to give some guidance earlier in the process, and then to take the more complete draft study and give some recommendations, especially in light of the comprehensive plan to the village board. And that's another one that you'll see this evening. Chairman Huber, do you have anything to add to those?
Just a few things. That's looking in the past of what we have done. Most of our work is pretty much been appearance review when you think about it. We have a few subdivisions. If you look at Hoover, that was certainly a major undertaking, but most of the subdivisions have been very minor in terms of what we've had to do to look at. Plan development ordinance, I think we made a contribution there. I'm thinking that the review of the library was probably the main thing that we've done in terms of looking at it. And that's because the Plan Commission is probably the only body that realizes that we have downtown plan, design guidelines, exterior appearance review guidelines, and the comprehensive plan. They all have a lot of statements, and I just was reviewing them before tonight's meeting, about the character of the community. And they talk a lot about parking, and they talk a lot about connectivity, and they talk a lot about things that you're grappling with all the time. The comprehensive plan has big ideas and had at the very end of it, so that we wouldn't get lost once we got through the comprehensive plan, what are the things we should next look at? It's really the very last page of the comprehensive plan. When you have a chance, go take a look. But under each of the big ideas, it just had 2 or 3 bullet points. What should we look at next? What could the Plan Commission do? And one of the changes was to try and work keeping the number of homes that are torn down reduced in the village. You've been working on them. One of the changes was to spur greater types of housing diversity in the village. And I think the state law and all of the fluffage going on with that probably keep us quiet on that for a while to see what plays out at the state level. Some of the other big ideas go a little bit beyond the view of land use and what the Plan Commission does. Maintaining economic resilience, we have to defer to the village board to figure out how to do some of that. The village streets and how that functions, something that we looked at, but is an ongoing discussion. Some of the other big ideas, care and support for the community, welcoming new residents, design and excellence planning and management and governance. I see most of these as things that fall a little bit outside of what the plan commission deals with daily, but I would encourage all of us to go back and look at those big ideas, because those are sort of like the strategic plan from a comprehensive plan standpoint. The last concept in the comprehensive plan is future land use. And if I look at those, one was create a plan unit development ordinance, we're working. But now I'll mention it for the last couple of months, just to take your temperature. Prepare plans to accommodate the relocation of the public works building. That was obviously something that's been on the agenda a long time. I don't know if you want us to actually take a look at that yet or not, but that was one of the suggested items to think about. We have studied how and where zoning development regulations can accommodate small and mid-sized townhome and multi-residential development. I guess that's something else that we could continue to look at in light of what happens with the state law. So that's just an overview of some of the topics that we're supposed to be thinking about from time to time in the comprehensive plan, and we'll wait for the board to give us more direction.
Let me say thanks for the report. Thanks to you and the Plan Commission for all your work. The question about, are we going to look at moving the garage and then having a development there? I mean, the answer is yeah. Will it happen this century? You know, based on what happened last century, the answer would be no. I told this before, when I was on the village board in 1986 or 85, a lawyer in town, Stan Shute, came to the village board, and he said this was 1955. He said, because he went to the trustees, he said, "Excuse me, are you thinking of putting village buildings on prime uptown property here? Because if you are, you're idiots, because this is our primo property and we should have commercial development. We should put village businesses, you know, elsewhere, village offices elsewhere, village public elsewhere." And of course, he was blown off by the village board, and they did this, but he was, you know, probably right. So certainly, if we had it to do over again, the public works garage would be by the water tower. Of course, we don't have it to do over again. It's a major production. We have to move the thing over and build it. So, but the short answer is, yeah, we should be thinking about this. We should be thinking about how to do it and what to do if public works garage. And of course, you need developers for that. You have to figure out, but we're thinking about this. Good answer. Yes.
I would just add to your point, President Rowan, that we are in the midst right now, and we'll be presenting to the board later this year, completing a space needs analysis for the Public Works Department and our operations as really kind of a first step to understand what it might entail to relocate the garage away from the central business district. And so that information is well underway. We'll be presenting that to you later this year.
Anybody else have comments or questions?
Just a quick one. The hot thing now in urban planning is the link between community design and building a sense of community. And several of these locations in that area. And I'm still educating myself on that, and I'm sure the staff and some of the commissioners might be especially interested in that as well. Thank you.
Okay, Bruce Taylor, thanks for your hard work. Thanks for the presentation, and do not have to stick around. You're allowed to, but you don't have to.
I would though.
Okay. All right, next report is you and discussion of the 2025 Glencoe Council for Inclusion and Community Act. I will ask Commission Chair Raphael Guzman to present. Raphael, welcome.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Raphael Guzman, Chairperson for Council for Inclusion and Community, as President Rowan said. I didn't realize I was going to have a display up. I would have brought pictures. We are a volunteer organization that is basically here to try to make Glencoe a inclusive and welcoming community as much as possible. We are an advisory council to the powers that be, President Rowan and the trustees. And the point that we do is to get together and not complain or to point fingers at each other, but to come up with ideas on how we can make Glencoe a more inclusive and welcoming community. Just like discussions as to who makes the best holiday dinner, there's different ideas as to how this can be accomplished. What we did over the past year, we did meet 12 times or 10 times, I apologize. I believe it's a total of 10 times. And what we did was that we supported District 35 Family Belonging event, Hearts and Minds in Motion events as well. That was a phenomenal event in which the school district puts on a central school, and each parent is able to donate or bring along something that is part of their heritage or their background. I went this year, I have more roadies than I care to admit, but it was also a presentation of dancing, cultural emphasis. And what we did was we brought a world map. That map was intended for the students to come and put stickers as to where their families were from. We had more from Japan than I anticipated. I forgot the stickers, so they were using dry erase markers. So it turned into an art project as well as a wonderful experience into understanding the true background and diversity that we may not understand or really comprehend that's here in Glencoe. We also supported Pride Month this past year with the support of the Library Rainbow Pride event, the Writers Theater Drag Story Hour, and also presence at the Glencoe Sidewalk Sale. This year, we did the same thing as far as the Drag Story Hour. We will not have a presence at the Sidewalk Sale this year, or this weekend or next weekend. Last year we went, we passed out donuts, we had some people stop by, but because of the heat, the glazed donuts turned into a substance that didn't really want to be passed around. So rather than waste our time on a Saturday and just try to convince people that I'm not there to collect credit cards or emails, we're going to put our focuses and our attention on other issues. The school supply drive was last year, as well as the Halloween costumes. That was 2 carloads of Halloween costumes that we collected from families. That was with the help of the school. It was donated to the Cook County Children's Hospital. It was a very, very successful event. The hospital was incredibly grateful. Anise Moses, a member of ours, was kind enough to do the drive on 2 separate occasions to take the items down. We plan on doing that again because of the success rate that we had. The co-sponsor stuff, the squad food drive was also very successful. I got to know Glencoe Public Safety and I got to ride in a very nice squad car to donate the food over to the pantry. The pantry is in downtown Winnetka. I had no idea it was there until last year, but they did accept, and we raised over, I want to say over $1,000 in monetary donations and more boxes that I care to count in food. The other item that we have expressed our help with is the Getting to Know the Heart of Glencoe article. That is something that we try to push out. That is a article in which we try to emphasize a local business or a local organization that may not have the opportunity for much exposure. The most difficult part that we're finding part of our council is that people don't know we exist or that we're here to push a particular agenda, which we are not. So we figured that this Get What's Good in the Neighborhood type of program will have the opportunity for local organizations or businesses or groups or fill in the blank to be able to have an outreach or put in our Friday e-newsletter that the village sends out. Or if not, Phil can do an interview, one of his as presentations that he does. Overall, we are always looking for members to join. This year, we have changed our meeting parameters. Instead of meeting every month, we're meeting every other month. So we met in May, we'll be meeting in July, September, and in November. So I encourage and welcome you all. We meet here in this room. We don't have food, but sometimes we bring treats. But we are here to serve the village, provide recommendations, and have an open ear, open minds to suggestions. Thank you.
Right, thanks for your work committee. I think I can speak for all of us that we think it's important. Making Glencoe inclusive is something we're always interested in doing. Since I've been here forever, I was actually here when the predecessor Human Relations Commission was founded in 1960. And it was a good idea then, still a good idea. So thanks. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. And we don't always have food. But if we get stuck, we're here for the duration.
Understood, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is review and discussion of the 2025 Preservation Commission Annual Report. And I will welcome Commission Chair Peter Van Vechten, who we've seen recently and is back.
Good evening. In the ordinance, it spells out what the goals are of the Preservation Commission. And in brevity, it's to foster civic pride in the beauty of the past as represented by the landmarks, to encourage preservation and promotion of those historic resources, encourage the protection and enhancement of the village attractiveness of residents, visitors, and prospective home buyers, encourage the maintenance and improvement of property values in the village, to encourage the protection, preservation, and enhancement of the village aesthetics, to encourage making landmarks, recognizing those structures and their importance, and finally educate the general public about why this is important in this village. Great. So over the course of the year, I believe we've fulfilled all of those goals. This was really a wonderful year in terms of accomplishments. We met every month. We reviewed 16 demolition applications. One property was nominated for certified landmark status. That's kind of rare in the village. I think we're up to 13 now. We reviewed certificate of appropriateness applications for 2 landmark properties. And we conducted 2 advisory reviews for honorary landmark properties. So we're offering assistance and suggestions to them. Multiple property owners have come forward with interest about becoming landmarks, and we're currently helping them understand what that means, helping them research the history of their properties. As you are very well aware, because you just voted to approve these, we have been working updating the preservation code to consolidate 2 sections, which were in a crazy part of the overall code, into one. Establish a pilot permit fee program for permit fee rebates for historic structures. Establish a new demolition fee for all structures in the village, $3,000 for any home, and then $5,000 if it's an honorary landmark. Worked with this body as well as the zoning commission to provide some flexibility of variances as well as additional floor area for landmarks. Because many of the landmarks were built before there was zoning, oftentimes there's very awkward physical conditions that exist. And I have a friend who likes to say, people used to live differently in their homes. The public rooms were in the front. So that's where your friends would come over. Now everybody wants to live in the back of their house. So that creates a conflict in sometimes people's heads living in a historic house. But what this can do is open up the possibility that they can actually add a great room in the back of their house and still have the best of both worlds. We worked on analyzing in a very granular way the Frank Lloyd Wright entry mine and its ravine bluffs. They've been having problems for the last 100 some years. You look at historic pictures, concrete is falling. Well, guess what? The concrete is falling today. And so there was a really deep analysis. Yes, it's caused by water, but go very deep and we'll go into it. But it's not going to be economic to fix this. And so what's being proposed is to look at a different way, some different ways how this could get funded, because it's a village-owned village landmarks. Important to this community. That needs to get done, but there is a place to get it. We have been working on a lecture series at the library. Number 2 was last week. Number 1 was last month. But mid-century modern is a very popular topic. Last month, or last week rather, it was lecture in the Johnson Room. It was crowded. It's great. People really were very interested in it. And next month will be the third in the series to talk about what I just talked about here, to try to educate public on what these new incentives are. Looking ahead, we intend to roll out a communication program with residents in the village, advising property owners of these new incentives, advising more people about what the benefits are for preservation. And then finally, continuing the survey of the mid-century modern homes. We've divided fairly broadly, 1935 to 1975. Some historians like to close that gap a little bit. We're trying to be a little bit inclusive, because there are some really interesting things that happened in the late 1930s all the way up into the 1970s. One thing that was not on the memo to you, but Stanley Tigerman, who was a very famous Chicago architect, passed away, but his one home in Glencoe is no longer in existence. It was torn down recently, but in the nick of time, it was photographed for historic purposes. And the owner of the property allowed a professional photographer to go in and take photographs, and it was kind of like going back to the Jetsons or something, because it was really good. It's a little too early, but mid-1970s, it was the wallpaper, it was the mirrors, it was everything. And so thank goodness that survives. And so that was done literally in the nick of time because the bulldozers were waiting outside. So, okay. So again, thank you for passing the suggestions last meeting. That was a very interesting meeting.
Thank you to the commission for all of your hard work, and particularly for your relentlessness on getting us to address this topic, which, notwithstanding what some people think, is not simple, is not straightforward. There are competing interests all over the place. There are questions about what's work. But anyway, we are very grateful. So thank you. Anybody else have comments or questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next report is review and discussion of the 2025 Zoning Board of Appeals Zoning Commission Annual Report. And I'll ask our staff liaison, Tabor Baxter and Rich McGowan, to present. Taylor, you first?
Rich first.
Okay.
I believe so.
Take it away.
Good evening, everyone. Chairman Scott Novak is unable to attend the meeting here tonight, but I will just give you a brief overview of the 2025 Zoning Board of Appeals. Just a quick overview, there were 28 cases reviewed by staff, 26 cases reviewed by the board itself. As far as we have information dating back several years as the highest caseload in recent years. There were no requests denied due to several cases either being deferred or withdrawn. The Zoning Board of Appeals does an excellent job of facilitating neighbor communication. So if there is some friction or they sense a lack of communication, they do encourage neighbors to speak and be on the same page about what is proposed. So oftentimes applicants will revisit if there is some friction or opposition at a later meeting date or subsequently withdraw their application. That being said, it is all case dependent, no pun intended, on the length of the meeting. Our longest meeting last year was 4 hours and 23 minutes long. And our shortest meeting, which I know President Rowan can appreciate, was 17 minutes long. As far as the projects that applicants were looking to achieve, the board had held 9 public hearings And they approved 20 total cases consisting of 35 individual variation requests. These were primarily for additions to single-family homes. As the Preservation Commission Chairman Peter Van Vechten had mentioned, there are several dozens and hundreds of existing homes that are currently legally non-conforming structures, and they are charming and appreciated in the community. The zoning code doesn't always work for them, so the additions are by far the most common project type. As far as the variation types, setbacks continue to be the most common variation request. A setback, for those of you who may not be familiar, is the distance from a structure to a property line, a minimum required setback. A lot of the existing homes in the village do not meet minimum setback requirements. So if you're looking to build an addition onto your existing home, even if it makes sense from a practical perspective or the naked eye, from a technical setback perspective, it can be difficult at times. Gross floor area is the second most common request. Again, in total, there were 36 variation requests. 35. Moving forward, the staff has begun erecting signage on applicants' property. You may have seen these. We've started these for a few requests this year already. These have been well received by the community. In terms of notifying neighbors, village publishes a legal notice in the Glencoe News. We also send out neighbor notification letters, typically to neighbors within 250 feet of the property. We also try to do our best to overextend that reach if we do believe that someone may be in view or close proximity to the subject property. We've also included greater details on those neighbor notification letters. Depending on the case itself and the information that staff has at the time that the notices are distributed, we try to answer as many questions, both with the verbiage, but also visually. I myself am a visual learner, so it's very helpful when someone can see a rendering or a site plan of what someone is proposing. Outside of that, we're looking into just minor application updates, as well as goals for procedural guides and handouts for participants to better understanding of the overall process, not only for applicants, but for people who may be attending the hearings as well. So overall, we want to make the process more streamlined and easy to comprehend. There's a lot of technical jargon and legal language thrown in the conditions and the requests. And our goal is to simplify it so neighbors aren't calling saying what the heck is being proposed. So ultimately, we want to ease and simplify concerns and make sure that everyone is on the same page. So with that being said, I will turn it over to you all with any questions.
Are we going to hear Taylor too?
Yes, I'll go next.
Okay, great.
Thank
So
you.
why don't we let Taylor go and then we'll have questions or comments for.
Oh, you have the remote, sorry.
I'll go quickly through this first part because everything that the zoning commission has done so far, you all are already aware of, because it's all come back to you for final approval typically. Special use permits and zoning code amendments are the two main duties that the zoning commission handles. They've had six special use permits since January of last year. About half of these are for non-retail, non-restaurant uses on the ground floor, which comes out of recent, about 3 years now on zoning code amendments, which requires that SUP for any non-retail, non-restaurant uses. One of those was for the library. The library is not retail or restaurant. They had to get SUPs to expand on the ground floor in B1 district. As you know, these come to you for final approval. The zoning commission holds a public hearing and makes a recommendation on that. Zoning code amendments also start with the village board and end with the village board, but the zoning commission holds the important role of public hearing. Some of these have already come into play in the everyday operation of the village. It clarified the authority to continue non-conforming structures when structures are demolished. That was a kind of gray area in the code about non-residential uses. If there, for example, if a church or a synagogue was demolished, could you replace it with a house that's as big as that church was? The answer is you can't anymore. Coming straight from the comprehensive plan, bringing minimum lot size and lot width in the RC district more in line with what's there now. 50-foot lot width is the new minimum width, which is intended to allow developers to build houses that are more in keeping with the older lot widths and the older house sizes in that neighborhood, instead of requiring them to build much larger houses on double lots. That's already coming into play. We've already talked about the preservation variations, creating a new process that allows the ZBA to grant larger variations for certified non-RA landmarks, and then changes in regulations for non-residential uses in residential zoning districts. Those now all require a special use permit. That is partially coming out of state changes to what parking regulations we can and can't enforce. We've had our ability to require off-street parking drastically reduced in the last couple of months, which allowed some of these non-residential uses to have very little oversight about where they located before this amendment that went into play earlier this year. Looking forward, went the wrong way. Looking ahead, plan development ordinance, talked about that already. You're going to talk about it later tonight, and then the zoning commission is going to have a public hearing on it, most likely next month. That's going to be very likely a multi-month process with the zoning commission, where they're going to do a lot of the in the weeds work on making that what it should be, and then it will return to you for final approval. State level zoning changes. We don't know where that's heading. It seems to be in a holding pattern for now. We fully expect state zoning regulations or preemption of local regulations to come back in some form. We don't know where that's going, but when it does come through, the zoning commission is going to have a big job. Most likely, depending on where that heads.
Or no job.
Or no job, depending. If it comes through, they'll have we'll see. But I expect them to have some work to do there. Additional comprehensive plan implementation. Again, this depends on the state level changes. The comprehensive plan, as we mentioned earlier, talks about finding the appropriate places to encourage a more diverse housing types. Really looking at Green Bay Road Corridor, our business districts, and then to start the conversation about some things like ADUs, things like that, and where they might be appropriate. But again, depending on what the state does or doesn't do in the future, that's really going to have a big impact on what the zoning commission's role is. With that, Rich and I are happy to answer any questions we have.
Let me say thanks. Those were really great presentations. Be sure to pass along to the members of the board how grateful we are for what they do. I'm probably biased because I was on the zoning board for a while, but not a lot of people come to the zoning board because of wanting variance. But for the people that do, there is nothing more important. This is the unless they get arrested by public security, this is the time the village is absolutely potentially in the face of our residents. And so it's really important that the village treats our residents right, treats their neighbors right. And I just want to say, I've not gotten a single complaint the whole time I've been president about what the zoning board is up to, not a single one. So with all the potential meetings, so congratulations on them. Taylor, that was a very helpful presentation. I had one comment, which is I'm confused about what the central business district is. I think you mean uptown. Although someone just told me that you can tell how old someone is and how long they've been around by whether they say uptown. So, okay, I'm old and I've been around for a long time, as our next speaker has been. But anyway, Otherwise, great presentation, very helpful. Anybody else have any questions or comments on the zoning board and zoning commission?
We do that.
Okay.
Just want to thank them again and encourage them to keep close tabs on the legislation along with our legal staff. One of the things that I think we're going to be looking at even more is the ability to give conditional approval for zoning, but that also means more negotiations. Good luck.
Anybody else? Okay, thanks for those presentations. Next, review and discussion of the 2025 Sustainability Task Force report. I see that both the chair, Lori Tuckman, and staff liaison Jen Maddox are here. Not sure who's talking.
Lori will be talking. Hi, I'm Lori Tuckman. I have been in Glencoe my whole life, and it was and still is and always will be uptown. No arguing there. The task force was started in 2016 and charged with the following goals: to promote the conservation of natural resources and the environment, to encourage environmentally sound and economically viable practices for the maintenance of buildings, landscape structures, both for residential, commercial, and public areas of the village, and to serve as a resource for the village board and the community through environmental awareness programs and initiatives. We have, I believe, 8 members currently. We are constantly looking for new members. And that's an ongoing goal. In 2025, I want to highlight just several of the things we have accomplished. We have assisted in selecting the consultants, environmental consultants, and served as volunteers on the planning team for the Sustainability Action Plan scheduled for completion in 2026. We've discussed ongoing with the village leadership new opportunities to enhance sustainable practices, including a coal tar ban. We have worked and continue to work with the Tree Commission to review the village's tree preservation ordinance and recommend possible areas to investigate that would enhance tree preservation related to property redevelopment. We've had a very successful buckthorn removal program, which removed over 107 cubic yards of invasive buckthorn in the community. We continue to promote environmental conservation through weekly sustainability Sunday social media posts where we pay and have received a lot of activity on it. We have promoted other community programs, including the Recycle Coach app, the Hefty Renew recycling program, and the Waste Not Curbside Food Scrap service. We have organized the 7th annual Donate and Recycle Day, collecting items from approximately 220 carloads this year. For 2026, our goals include to guide the development of the Sustainability Action Plan, educate the public about buckthorn and promote buckthorn removal, work with the Tree Commission on tree protection and preservation, further engage with the community to promote and educate the Recycle Coach app, Waste Not, and the Hefty program. We continue to try to recruit new members to the task force. We will continue to do this very successful Donate and Recycle drop-off event and the stargazing events.
Thank you. Excellent. Brevity is the source of the speaker. So I like that. And not only because of you endorsed my uptown crusade. Are there questions for either Lori or Jen? Lori's been chair for a while. Jen has recently taken over as our liaison for the Sustainability Task Force. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me just say, we are so grateful for volunteers. We depend on volunteers to do a lot of this stuff that this village does. So thank you. And make sure to pass along to our Sustainability Task Force members how grateful we are. Okay, unless there's other business, is there a motion?
No, we have
We
no
have one more.
Tree.
Monica. Okay, Monica. review and discussion of 2025 tree commission annual report and our public works chief and tree commission liaison, Monica Sarna, and I apologize for almost missing it.
All right, so we're gonna start off with our tree commission report with this graphic here, reminding everybody about the importance of trees. So as you can see, there are many benefits. I could list them all, but this graphic right here does a great job of reminding us all of the benefits, multifaceted that trees provide in our community. So we have over 11,000 trees in our community or in our public inventory. So those are our public parkway trees that our public works staff manages and maintains year over year. Throughout the community, we have over 55% tree canopy coverage, which is very lucky to have within our community. And you can tell driving around in the summer, it is just gorgeous driving down our streets with our large trees, looking at all the vegetation and canopy that they provide. But trees are also a critical source of our stormwater infrastructure. Trees can actually absorb up to 150 gallons of water per day, which is a bit hard to believe, but that's why they are so critical in helping maintain and reduce flooding. The role of the tree commission is to promote public outreach on tree-related issues and reminding Glencoe residents of the importance of this resource. The tree commission was established in late 2023, so we're on our third year going into 2026 meeting. We meet on a bi-monthly schedule, so we actually only meet 6 times a year. We are a small committee or small commission. Village staff heavily supports the tree commission because much of our discussions focus around tree care. So we have our forestry supervisor, Robert Waring, our general superintendent, Donald Kirk, as well as myself and our public works management analyst, Jen Maddox, join us in these meetings. We talk a lot about tree diseases that may be threatening our community or infestations. We talk about tree species, tree care, tree diversity, broad variety of topics that we're focusing on to make sure that we are being proactive and being well educated on the way that we maintain our tree canopy. In 2025, we just highlighting some of our accomplishments. We continue to celebrate Arbor Day with District 35. If you don't know, they rotate on an annual basis and plant a tree at each one of the campuses. So this year it was at Central School and we planted a swamp white oak. It's a nice ceremony that the children are involved in learning about the importance of trees. We also created a program to select a tree of the year. And we got over a dozen applications. It was a very hard decision, but we ended up selecting a bur oak on Lapierre Street, in which we went out there and looked at it in person. And our co-chair, Brian Lammers, did an estimate, and he thinks the tree is over 225 years old, which is just amazing. We're on our second year of the curbside buckthorn collection program, where we collected over 100 cubic yards. I would say since the beginning, I think over 250 cubic yards of chipped buckthorn. So that's like after we throw it through the chipper and dispose, that's how we collect our quantity, has been collected, and over 100 residents have participated in the program, which is just amazing. We've also discussed the tree preservation ordinance in regards to the tree grant opportunity. And we also look at new development. So we are trying to create a better understanding of our redevelopment process and how tree preservation is a critical part with that. So going into 2026, we're going to continue to focus on many of these items. The biggest focus is an update to Chapter 34 of the tree preservation ordinance that we'll be working on in coordination with the Development Services Department. We also want to support our other organizations throughout the village, such as the Sustainability Task Force or Friends of the Green Bay Trail with the buckthorn removal initiatives, and then continue education and outreach throughout the community on areas that benefit for trees. Any questions?
glad we didn't miss that because I can't read. That was great. Thank you. And thanks to the tree commission members. One of them's here. Dudley, thank you. Okay. There are no questions. I think other business.
Could I add something at the end here for our
Absolutely.
related to that? I want to again thank all our citizen volunteers for their hard work. They demonstrate wonderful concern for the community. And they've really done a good job supporting the board and our citizens. These people are a source of ideas, information, and options for us as we go through the decision process. They help us make informed decisions and recommendations that reflect our shared values. And most importantly, they help us keep it real. Thank you all.
Unless there's other business, is there a motion to go into closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Open Meeting Act? 2C21, review of minutes, 2C8, security protocols, and 2C11, pending litigation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We should have a roll call.
Sorry, I was just trying to figure, you moved. Okay, trustee Hallwax?
Yes.
Trustee Mealopolis?
Yes.
Trustee Abernard? Yes. Trustee Rosenblatt?
Yes.
Trustee Rubin?
Yes.
Trustee Scott?
Yes.
Okay, we are moving to closed session.